Kouri Richins thought he was celebrating. According to prosecutors, his wife Kouri brought him a cocktail in March of 2022 at their Utah home after she closed on a big property deal. Hours later, he was dead. The autopsy stunned investigators. Fentanyl toxicity at levels far beyond accidental exposure. Kouri Richins publicly portrayed herself as a devastated widow, raising 3 boys by herself. She later authored a children's book about loss dedicated to her late husband. But detectives uncovered evidence about acquiring drugs and learned of serious financial strain in the marriage. Prosecutors say there was even a prior attempt to poison Eric on Valentine's Day. Kouri Richins has pleaded not guilty to murder and is now on trial. And tonight, we have all the latest from the courtroom in this high-profile legal drama. I'm Vinny Politan. Thank you so much for joining us tonight here on Closing Arguments. Great to have you aboard. And the trial in Utah continues. And it's really interesting when you kind of look in on the lives of the people who are at play here. And it's a family, it's a husband, it's a wife. Kouri Richins. This is a man who had back pain, and it's going to be an important issue throughout the course of this trial. As a matter of fact, it may very well be the foundation of the defense, Kouri Richins' defense, that Eric had back pain. He did some manual labor. He was an outdoorsman, and you know, it takes its toll. And he was suffering, and as a result of his suffering, he was looking for a way to alleviate that suffering. Whether they were those special gummies that they sell or something else. And I think the something else is what the defense is really zeroing in on. That Kouri Richins was in insufferable back pain and was looking for some form of relief. And unfortunately and tragically, what he reached for was laced with fentanyl and caused his death. So basically, they're pointing the finger at the defendant. It's his fault. He is the one that was suffering. He was the one that went off the prescribed route and tried to self-medicate and got drugs from wherever that caused his death. Now, while Kouri Richins had back pain, his wife Kouri had a lover. How about that? And she's communicating with the lover. I love you. I love you. Oh, you love me? That's great. Right before, on the evening of Kouri Richins' death. Now, is that just a bad coincidence? And that's what the defense, I guess, has to argue, is that, you know, marriages fall apart, they drift apart, whatever. But it's not, has nothing to do with the premature death of Kouri Richins. Has nothing to do with it. Yes, she had a lover. Yes, she's saying, I love you, and he's saying, I love you. And all this happens in the moments and the hours before the death of Kouri Richins. That's a coincidence. So he had back pain. She had a lover. He had a lot of money. Kouri Richins, young guy, very successful. Very successful, but it's success built on hard work. And at a relatively young age, had built up an estate at the time of his death that was worth $4 million plus. And that includes all the money that he dumped into his wife's fledgling business, by the way. So he's doing well. He's doing very well. And look at him, he's still young. I mean, that amount of wealth was just going to continue to grow and grow and grow. The wealth was real. He had money. Kouri Richins had a lot of debt. She thought she was a business person. My guess is, and I don't know, I can't confirm, it says she watched HGTV and saw how easy it was to make all that money in 1 hour. It's so easy. You just find this property and maybe you go to an auction, maybe there's something wrong with it, but you buy it, and then because you're really smart and savvy, you fix it up, and then you sell it, and then you make all this money. And it takes like an hour. Unfortunately for Kouri Richins, it doesn't take an hour. She wasn't very savvy, and she was losing a lot of money. So For prosecutors, that's a big deal. That's really the foundation of their case, of their motive in this case. Because you don't have to prove it, but you've got to tell a story to the jury about why a woman who has 3 young boys with a man would kill him. She had a lover, she had debt, he had money, he had some back pain. Oh, there's a good cover story. That's the way this trial is going to play out. That's the big picture. So here we are, day 2 of this trial. And now you start to get into the witnesses who need to put that evidence in that prosecutors are going to use and marshal to argue to this jury that Kouri Richins is guilty beyond any and all reasonable doubt. So let's take a look at all the big moments from day 2 of the murder trial of Kouri Richins.
Were you given any medications that Eric Richins was taking?
Yes, I believe she told me it's in my report, but naltrexone for Lyme disease, possibly. She did also say CBD gummies.
As you were performing these life-saving measures on Eric Richins, did you see anything that to you might explain what's going on with him?
No.
Now, when you've been on the scene for an overdose death or an overdose call in the past, what are some things that you see around the person that might indicate to you what's happening?
Sometimes you see drug paraphernalia or pill bottles.
Did you observe any of those things?
No.
Later, you talked about Eric Richins being dead sometime. What was that observation based on?
He was cold to the touch. His body was cold to the touch, and his heart rhythm, which when we hooked up the monitor, showed that he was in asystole.
What is asystole?
That's flatline.
So no heart?
No heart, no heart. Electroactivity at all.
Did that ever change while you were there?
No.
So then they're doing the CPR, and you were asked by Ms. Offred, who we just heard from, to check the nightstand for any medication. Is that right?
Yes.
I noticed you went to the bedstand on that side of the bed. So is your understanding that was the side of the bed that Mr. Richins had been on?
Yes.
Did you see the white specks on the nightstand when you were there that night?
I do not recall it being there.
Did you gather them or swab them or put them in a little plastic bag to be tested later?
I did not.
So as you sit here now, can you tell the jury what those white specks are?
White specks.
With the information available to me at the time of the autopsy, the decedent did not have a history of any kind of illicit drug use or prescription medication abuse. So the fentanyl level should have been 0. There should not have been any fentanyl or norfentanyl present. The fact that I have fentanyl present tells me that fentanyl was obviously ingested at some point recent.
15 nanograms per milliliter, is that a toxic range?
In someone who is not prescribed this medication and taking it routinely, it is toxic.
So the big issue for this jury, factually, to figure out, based upon all the other circumstances surrounding it, is did Eric Richins take this himself, or was he poisoned by his wife, Kouri? Let's bring in our think tank. Joining me, former police lieutenant, trial attorney Rick King is here. Also with us, national parenting and family relationship expert, Dr. Sue Kornbluth. And finally, former sex crimes prosecutor Stacey Honowitz. Great to see everyone tonight. All right, Rick, I want you always have so many hats to wear. Let's just look at the scene itself inside the room. You know, we heard a description of some specs, but we didn't see the other things that at least one witness was talking about, paraphernalia, etc. What strikes you about the scene? Does an overdose scene always look like an overdose scene, or because it's becoming way too common in our nation because of fentanyl, we may not always recognize it? What are your thoughts there?
First, I want to say, was that a bald joke about the different hats?
No, because sometimes you're a police lieutenant, sometimes you're a lawyer.
Okay, all right,
Those are the hats.
I just wanted to.
Never.
To make sure.
No.
So to answer your question, sometimes a scene doesn't look like a scene, especially when we're talking about fentanyl. It depends on how it was ingested, or in this case, or possibly in this case, how it was delivered. It just depends. I don't know that you can look at a scene and say, hey, this doesn't look like it might be an accident, or this doesn't look like it might be an overdose, or this doesn't look like it might be someone gave it to him, to poison him. I don't think you can tell simply by looking at the scene. I think you have to look at the surrounding nature of how the call came out, what happened, what's the physical evidence left behind that this was an accidental or intentional ingestion, or to the contrary, what's left behind that makes this look like it was delivered by someone else. I think that they're trying to suggest that this fentanyl was delivered in a toxic cocktail, but they're missing the trace amounts in the cocktail glass, is what I understand. So how do you make that? The jury's got to make a large leap to say it came out of this glass, and there's nothing in the glass. So I think from that perspective, now there are other things that are going to tie into the case that make it look dirty. However, just the scene and the glass and what's left leaves you with a little bit to ask.
Dr. Sue Kornbluth, we heard some testimony there about no history or documented history of Eric Richins being an abuser of anything. A history of, oh yeah, he gets some of those gummies for some back pain. He's dealing with Lyme disease, potentially. What are your thoughts here about the history? Would it be evident? Would it be documented? Would the wife know? Would the wife be concerned? Would the wife understand all that? What are your thoughts about how that dynamic you would expect it to play out?
I mean, if my husband was taking a lot of medication for back pain or whatever he was going through, I would think that I would know about it, okay? And I would know exactly what he was taking because, we share the same home together. We share the same bathroom, the same bedroom, and you would be seeing what he would be taking. I think what is really going to make a difference here, Vinny, and maybe we're going to talk about this later, but he was telling people that he thought he was being poisoned. And I think that is something that's going to come in here in terms of whether she was the one that was dosing this out to him or she wasn't.
Stacey Honowitz, going back to the scene, are you concerned that the jury doesn't know exactly what those white specks were on the night table?
No, not at all. I think, Vinny, in this case, what you said in the very beginning, when you said in a murder case, we know that motive doesn't have to be proven, but it plays a big role. And in this case, that's what the prosecutors are hanging their hats on. Not the fact that two specks, and you heard the witness say they were two specks of something white on a nightstand. It could have been dust, it could have been dirt, it could have been anything, is going to make this case. And I think, honestly, what you have is all these surrounding factors. It's really the makings of a movie that you're really talking about. She doesn't like the husband. She's in an unhappy marriage. She's in debt. She needs money. She takes out an insurance policy right before he dies. She has a lover who she says through text messages, if he wasn't here, would you marry me tomorrow? I mean, all of these things taken, we believe in something called the totality of circumstances. And I think that's what you have here. And you did hear today a witness state, as Dr. Kornbluth said, his sister said on the stand, he thought he was being poisoned. The question was then asked, how do you know that? And she said, because he told me. And so you have so many other factors than a naked or a bare scene in this case that the prosecutor is really going to hone in on.
And Stacey, that doesn't mean that just because she maybe had an affair, that doesn't mean she's going to kill him, though, does it?
No, listen, I'm not saying that that's not, you can't make that leap. She's having an affair, but you have the affair coupled with so many other things. So while you won't stand in front of a jury and say, convict her of murder because she had a lover, people would say, well, big deal. Just like you said, They'll say convict her because A, B, C, D, and E. And all of those factors taken together with the fact that he was not a drug addict at the scene when she was questioned on the body cam, she never says, oh, by the way, he's taking some really strong drugs because he's got a really bad back injury. She said he has Lyme disease and sometimes he takes some gummies. So I think when you put that all together, Rick, I think they have a very strong argument.
All right, let's do this. You mentioned the body cam, Stacey. When we come back, we're going to take some time and take you through that body cam piece by piece. Kouri Richins, in the moments after her husband's death, when the first responders show up, we'll show you what happened. Plus, coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinnie Politan investigates a quiet night in the Catalina foothills turns into a suspected abduction. Detectives say critical security systems were disabled around the time Nancy Guthrie disappeared. Was this carefully planned? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Kouri, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder.
He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of grief?
The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
When I sleep with my kids, I'll wake up and I go back in my own bed. I just crawl over on his side.
There is body cam video of Kouri Richins in the initial response by police and emergency workers. So we get to see and hear her. So I want to bring in a special guest, behavioral and social scientist, Dr. Abby Morono. Dr. Abby, great to see you tonight. What I'd like to do is go through a bunch of pieces of video here, get your take on what you're seeing, what you're hearing, and then we'll give a better insight into what's going on here in this body cam. You ready?
Let's do it.
All right, let's roll. This first one is the initial response from emergency workers when they first show up at the house. Let's take a look.
What's your first name? What's your first name? Yeah, let me talk to you out here for a second. Let them do their work in there. So what happened today? When you say we were fine, what time did you see him when he was alert?
We had a drink together at 9 to celebrate something at work tomorrow.
Okay.
We went to bed. I went to bed with my kids. He went to bed in our bed.
What time did you guys go to bed?
9:30.
9:30? Okay.
9:45.
And then what alerted you to him today, right now?
Yeah, when I just woke up. When I sleep with my kids, I'll wake up and I go back in my own bed. I just crawl over on his side.
And he was laying in bed? Okay.
He was on his back on the bed, and I...
Okay. And he was on, you said he was on his back? Okay. Where are your children now?
Asleep in that room. 2 are awake with their ear to the door. I don't want them to come out. Please somebody took them out.
Where are the other 2 at that are awake?
In the hallway bedroom.
And where's that at?
Who's there? First one to your left.
Okay, Dr. Abby, what are you seeing here in this initial conversation she's having?
With behavior, sometimes the most interesting factor isn't what we're seeing, but it's what's missing. And in situations like this that involve sudden medical emergencies or loss, and something extremely traumatic, we look for caregiving orientation, which means where attention and protective behavior are directed, particularly in parents. This is sometimes called parental protection response. It's a very deeply biologically rooted system that prioritizes the safety of our offspring. So what we would expect to see is the parent physically moving towards the children to check their safety.
and then monitoring for what the children can hear and see and trying to shield them from any distressing information, that kind of thing. And in this instance, she doesn't move towards the children or visibly attempt to manage their exposure to the situation or the conversation with law enforcement. Actually, she mentions that one of them are awake. And there's no observable effort either to ensure they can't hear distressing information. Her behavior remains very focused towards the officers and her own emotional experience.
Interesting. Let's bring back the think tank. Rick King, Dr. Sue Kornblue, Stacey Honowitz. Dr. Sue, what are your thoughts about this initial back and forth with police?
I agree with what the expert said about the children and not going into a private room to discuss this information. I'm also looking at this and the way that she is controlling herself. And it almost seems to me that there's crocodile tears coming down from her face, that it doesn't feel like legit to me of what it would appear if somebody was going through this and just learned about this. It's the hands over the face, maybe to cover up something. To me, it just doesn't feel as authentic as it would. It's almost like she's acting this out instead of feeling this. Now, everybody feels lost in a different way, right? And that's
I think I
fine,
get what you're
but-
saying, Dr. Sue. It's like it's not coming across naturally, and it seems like she's saying the things that you would want to say. Let's do this. I want to go back to Dr. Abby because we've got another clip that I want to show you. And this one, Dr. Abby, she's calling her mom on the phone. Let's watch.
Is there any family members we can call right now?
Yeah, I need to call my mom. I need to call my mom so bad.
Okay.
I think I don't know. 911's on the phone. They got me. I don't know.
Here. Okay.
I call my mom.
Yep. I'll give you a phone right now, okay?
I need to call his dad. He's gonna be okay, right? Like I got in bed and then I just got.
Yeah, they're doing their best, okay, ma'am? Here, you can use my phone.
Mom. Mom. Mom.
Yeah.
Go to my house. Go to my house.
What's going on?
I don't know. Something's wrong with Eric. The police think ambulance are here. It's like, I don't know what's happening. He wasn't breathing. I don't know.
Who?
Eric.
Where's he at?
My house.
I'm on my way.
All right, Dr. Abby, how about this part where she's calling her mom?
Well, the thing that stands out here, just like the doctor said, is the crying. Genuine emotional crying is very difficult to regulate physiologically. During intense emotion, we have an automatic nervous system disruption. It disrupts normal breathing patterns and it interferes with speech production. So it makes controlled and smooth vocal delivery very difficult, which simply means that their voice basically stops cooperating with them and speech becomes pretty uneven. In this instance, the crying sounds more controlled than we would typically expect. And that's where that feeling of it just doesn't feel quite right comes from. We don't quite know what it is about the nonverbals consciously, but we just feel it unconsciously. And there's less of this natural rise and fall that we would expect with genuine crying, this breathing interruption and more audible strain in the vocal cords. We're not hearing that genuinely. It feels like a forced tension rather than a genuine tension that is disrupting that breathing pattern.
Let's go back to the tank. Stacey Honowitz, what are your thoughts here How does the jury receive this body cam video?
Well, the jury, of course, has the opportunity to view it and to make their own determination, but you're going to have two sides like you have in all trials. The prosecution is going to say everything that the doctor said without maybe the intensity that the doctor's talking about or the words that she's using, but they're going to say it's inauthentic. That's the word they're going to use. It looks like there's crying, but why is she covering her face? Is she covering her face because there's no tears coming out from that exaggerated holding over and holding her face? So they'll argue that. The defense is going to say, listen, everybody reacts differently. This is she doesn't know what's going on. She can't control herself. And this is, you can't make that determination because you cannot step into her shoes because you don't know what she's feeling at that moment. And they're going to have to make that judgment call. So you're going to hear it from both sides.
Yeah, we are. Let's watch a little bit more of this body cam video. Dr. Abbey, we have now a discussion here about the medical issues that her husband, Eric, was facing.
Does he have any medical conditions or anything like that?
He has Lyme's disease.
Lyme's disease?
Nothing major, like...
Okay. So no heart problems or anything like that?
No, he just said his chest was hurting when he went to bed, but that's... he doesn't drink enough water, when he gets on the bike downstairs. I don't know, it didn't make sense. And then he just said he was really tired because he got his allergy shots yesterday morning.
Okay.
With my son, they went together.
And then when did you discover him? What time?
I got up, I got my phone. It's maybe 3.
About 3. Did you immediately call the 911?
Yeah, well, I got up and, as soon as I turned over and he was cold, I just felt like something was wrong. So, I just put the blanket on it because I just thought I keep my room cold. So and then I sat there for a minute and I just didn't feel like it's like breathing or anything. And so I kind of like that.
Okay.
And he just felt so heavy.
Okay, Dr. Abbey, how about this part?
Well, the behavior that you just cannot miss is obviously, as we said, those hands over the face. And she does it while she's code forward. And this can serve more than one psychological function. Again, as we said, there can be two sides. Now, the first side is what we call a blocking behavior. And this is when we partially or fully obstruct our face, eyes, or body from an environmental stimuli. Here, she's covering her face and her eyes. We do this instinctively when we experience emotional overwhelm, loss, grief, information that's very difficult to process. And most blocking behaviors occur without conscious planning. It's a very automatic nervous system response. However, she may also understand that this behavior is a...
We lost Dr. Abbey Morono. Do we have Rick King? Rick, I've got to ask you, Rick. In listing the things that were wrong with her husband, it's like she buried the lead, right? She goes with Lyme disease, allergy shots, and then, oh yeah, his chest was hurting when he was in bed, and then the next time I saw him, he was dead. To me, that would kind of stick out. I would think if your spouse, their chest is hurting, and then the next time you see them, they're dead, that might be the first thing I would blurt out to every emergency worker who came in the house, rather than the Lyme disease.
Yeah, you know what, and you're 100% right, and that's probably the way that most of us would do it. But Stacey said it right, and here's the thing, and what Stacey said was the prosecution is going to say it one way, defense is going to say it another. But here's what's most important, and in my opinion, the best thing that Stacey said. This is about a jury, and so as we sit here, you and I and Stacey and Dr. Sue, we all talk about this. We know a lot of information that hopefully at this point the jury doesn't know. And so that's when we talk about the presumption of innocence and what happens as we explain the story and we tell our story from each side. It's different. And I think it's going to come down to, the physiological information that we're receiving from the expert is something that, I don't know, it sounds good, but the jury's not going to receive it that same way that we have it with the biases that we already have inside from all the information that we know. So it's important to remember that juries are taking this in for what it's worth at the time, and they're looking at her manifestations and her movements and her voice, and they may pick up different things that you and I or the expert even isn't even really talking about.
I'll tell you who's not buying her story. Your dog. Look over your shoulder. Dog's not buying the story tonight, Rick. Yeah. Just not buying it. All right.
He's not buying any of this.
Stay where you are, everyone. We've got more body cam video to show you. All our guests, our experts, will stay with us. Don't go anywhere.
Before he goes to bed. It didn't seem like you did, though.
It's like a gummy, as in like a THC gummy? Okay.
All right, we're taking a look at the body cam video. The night Eric Richins died, when responders came there, the cameras are rolling like they normally are, and we're getting to see and hear the defendant, the accused murderer, Kouri Richins. Still with us, behavioral social scientist, Dr. Abby Morono. All right, Dr. Abby, I want to take a look here at a discussion by Kouri about several things, including some pain pills that Eric had taken in the past.
When you discovered him, was he on the bed? Yes.
He was just laying on his side like normal.
Okay.
I just thought he was cold. It just was cold in there, so I put the blanket on him.
Yeah.
But his body just felt like heavy, and
And which way was he facing? Was he facing towards?
No, he was just up, just facing up.
Oh, so he's laying on his back? Okay. And then did you pull him to the ground?
Yeah, that's what the lady on the phone told me to do, was to take the sheet and pull the sheet to the ground so I could do CPR.
Okay. What's his highest level of education?
He's a bachelor's degree.
Okay.
This man's been active. He didn't just die in his sleep. This is insane.
Any mental health conditions? No. Okay. How about any suicidal history? No.
Never.
Okay.
No.
Has he been seen by a doctor in the last 30 days?
No.
Okay. Has any prescriptions been filled in the last 30 days? No. Has he had a history of falling or anything? No. Any history of prescription abuse? No.
I mean, when he was in high school and stuff, yeah.
Okay.
Pain pills, I think.
Okay. What are you seeing and hearing here these are questions from the officer getting information. She's not just volunteering all this info, but what are your thoughts?
Well, what's really noticeable is her body movement, the rocking, the tapping of the foot, the wriggling of her feet. She's doing a lot of fidgeting. Now, a rocking movement is a very well documented self-soothing behavior. We rock and we have these rhythmic movements because they help regulate the nervous system and stabilize breathing and emotional intensity. It sends signals to the brain to calm down and activates the parasympathetic nervous system. So simply rocking helps create this calmness that helps when we're having difficult emotions. And this is a lot more intense. We see it in her behavior than we did earlier as the conversation gets more intense. But just like with the previous behaviors where we said there's two sides of it, it can be falsified or it could be genuine. So what I look for, as I was also saying previously before we had a tech issue, is what behaviors accompany it. With this kind of movement, if she is rocking and experiencing this fidgeting behavior because of trying to calm down her nervous system, you would expect that tension in her voice. You would expect the breathing disruption, which we are not hearing. And just with the movements in her body, it's rhythmic movements we tend to see. It feels almost like we're moving in this rhythm because that's how the body regulates. With hers, it's very disorganized. So again, it just doesn't feel quite genuine. It's not what we would typically expect to see.
I have one more clip I want to show you, and this is really interesting about how the three boys find out what happened to their dad.
Who told the boys? Kouri said a cop told them. Why would you tell a child?
Well, they shouldn't have told him. I asked everyone not to tell him.
They all know. They told me.
How do they know?
Carter told me, a cop told me.
Would they have told him?
No, I wouldn't think.
We were in there, so we were maybe a fire department.
Maybe they, yeah.
Oh my freaking God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh my God. Oh.
That number just kept ringing this morning, and I'm like...
Yeah, because we couldn't find her phone.
I thought somebody called from his cell phone, and then when you Google it, it says it's a spoof number. I'm going to go up here to these people.
Oh, is the door closed, my room?
Yeah.
Yes, we...
They won't let me. Is he still in there?
So I'll explain to you what the process is right now. Because he was in good health and his age and everything like that, okay? Our medical examiner is going to come and do their investigation real quick, and then also our detective, just to make sure that everything's documented, correctly. And then from there, they'll explain to you what's going to happen. Most likely, what I'm thinking, because he has no serious health problems or anything like that. His age, most likely, they're going to take his body to the
my God.
medical examiner's office just to make sure that, there wasn't anything else.
Okay.
All right. Do you have any questions for me right now?
Oh, God.
I did. They're all watching TV. I said, you guys got to go back to sleep. It's 4 o'clock in the morning.
Okay, Dr. Abby, what are your thoughts here about this last piece?
Well, I'm very glad that she got up and walked so we could see her gait compared to when she was sat down. Now, when she sat down, she's having real trouble controlling her muscle contractions, it seems. There's a lot of shaking. There's a lot of fidgeting. There's a lot of these movements we've already talked about. Now, what you would expect to see if someone's actually having difficulty with controlling these muscle contractions is when they get up, there's almost this lowered gait. The muscles in the legs, they tighten. So it becomes very difficult to have smooth movement as you walk. So you can look at little silly things. You do like little short steps and everything feels very tight. She gets up and she moves very fluid. Again, it's not what I would expect from someone that's experiencing that high level of contractions and difficulty controlling behavior while seated. I would then expect a slower gait and a more robotic, difficult movement, not the fluidity that we're seeing as she's walking.
Dr. Abby Morono, always great to have your insight. Thank you so much. We appreciate it. We'll see you soon next time. Let's bring back in our think tank, Rick King, Dr. Sue Kornblue, Stacey Honowitz. Dr. Sue, first thing to you, and we don't have a ton of time here. I want to get around the horn. The children found out, it seems, from emergency workers who were there. What are your thoughts about that and the impact it could have on these young boys?
I mean, it is extremely traumatic to find that out about your father from a police officer instead of your own mother who was in the house. So as they grow up, you know, they're going to have tons of trauma from this and a lot of questions. And especially if their mother is convicted, Vinny, you know, they're going to have a lifetime of dealing with emotional difficulties. And, you know, I hope that they get the help that they need.
All right. We're out of time, unfortunately, but a big thanks. Rick King, Dr. Sue Kornblue, Stacey Honowitz, great to see you. We'll see you again really soon. When we come back, I will reveal something else you need to know tonight, plus coming up next hour. Tonight on Vinny Politan Investigates, Nancy Guthrie was last seen late Saturday night, January 31st. Hours later, blood confirmed to be hers was discovered outside her home. Where is Nancy now? Tonight, we investigate.
This is the story of the Richins. Eric, a father of 3, met an untimely end, and Kouri, his widow, wrote a children's book on grief.
She's also charged now with his murder.
He was faced with betrayal and terror.
I know her innocence.
Is their story a tragic romance?
Or a twisted tale of greed?
The truth will come out.
The Grief Author Murder Trial. Live coverage weekday mornings, 8, 7 Central on Court TV.
Welcome back. Time to reveal something else you need to know tonight. Let's take a look at the big board. 2 huge cases, 1 lawyer. Catherine Nestor is her name. She's representing Kouri Richins, but she's also representing this man, the accused killer of Charlie Kirk. 2 big cases out in Utah. She's a public defender, and there was a big hearing today in the Charlie Kirk assassination case, and it involved the defense attempting to get the prosecutor removed from the case because the prosecutor's daughter was in the audience the day that Charlie Kirk was shot and killed. The judge has decided to keep the prosecutors on the case. They will not be tossed, so they will be set. Robinson, the defendant, has not yet entered a plea, and a trial date is not yet set. But 1 lawyer with 2 huge cases that you're watching right here on your front row seat to justice. Okay, please take a look at your television screens because we have a missing child who needs your help tonight. This is J.C. Hunt, just 15 years old, missing out of Olympia, Washington since the 18th of February. Take a look at her picture. If you see her, if you recognize her, pick up the phone, make a call, make a difference. You can call 911, 1-800-THE-LOST, or you can call the Olympia Police Department in Washington State. That number's up on your screen right now. Let's see if we get JC to a safe place tonight. Don't go anywhere. We have another hour of live true crime in-depth coverage of the Nancy Guthrie abduction. In the meantime, please don't forget to hug the kids.